The other day, while I was shopping at Costco, I stumbled upon something that caught my eye. A pre-built gaming PC. It was the HP Victus 15L, priced at $800 Canadian, which is roughly around $550 US. The specs looked surprisingly solid for the price, and with Costco's extended warranty backing it up, it felt like a no-brainer. So I bought one with the rest of my groceries, and in this video, we're going to find out if it's any good. We'll open up the system and examine the hardware inside, check out its performance, and find out if it's worth the price, or if you're better off building your own.
Out of the box, you'll find a few accessories including a full-size keyboard with membrane switches, a wired mouse, a power cable, and a quick start guide to get you up and running. So, first impressions of the Victus 15L. It is very small, like really small, guys. This thing, obviously, meaning 15L, stands for its volume, but I was surprised at how lightweight it is. I mean, this thing could easily just carry this thing with probably one hand, but I'm using two hands because I don't want to drop it. But yeah, I love the design approach that HP has done with the chassis. Super clean design. Love the paint job here. They're not using the most advanced CNC mill aluminum materials. It's your classic or typical metal box that's probably just sandblasted with some really nice paint. And then you have this plastic front panel, which I think can scratch up easily over time. I think I see a few scratches just from handling, but other than that, very clean design, love it. You have this really cool Victus logo that is lit up in RGB, and it gives you a really nice infinity mirror look. Now, there are some sacrifices when it comes to connectivity. For example, if I shift your attention towards the rear I/O, there isn't a whole lot of ports to play around with. You only get 4 USB 2.0 ports in 2024, which is like, why? Why doesn't it even exist? Doesn't make any sense. You do have an Ethernet jack, HDMI that is integrated with the CPU. And of course, you have your dedicated GPU outputs for video and your power output, and that's about it. There's no USB Type-C ports at the back or any other advanced I/O selection that you would find on a custom motherboard. But if we shift attention to the front I/O, I think this PC has the most number of ports on any case that I've come across. It has 4 USB Type-A ports. That's a lot. And a USB Type-C port. Now, 2 of the Type-A ports are 10 gigabits per second, and then 2 of them are 5 gigabits per second, so it's a healthy mix. And you have your audio jack and a power button. But yeah, it's not the most advanced, or if you're chasing for the fastest ports or the most number of ports, this ain't it. But just to plug in your everyday peripherals or your hard drives or USB drives, this thing will get the job done. Setting up this PC is pretty straightforward, though I'm not a huge fan of Microsoft's setup process, which requires you to sign in with a Microsoft account. Thankfully, there's a way to bypass this by pressing Shift plus F10 during the setup and typing this into the command prompt. You can skip the network requirements and join or use a local account instead of giving all of your personal information to Microsoft. And one thing I do appreciate about pre-built systems is that they come with a licensed copy of Windows. Plus, this PC in particular doesn't have that much bloatware pre-installed aside from McAfee, which I'm going to take care of right now and get that out of the way. However, before you start to install your apps and games, there are 2 important things that you need to do in order to make sure the system runs smoothly. And the first is to update all the drivers. This includes the GPU drivers. In my case, I had to manually update the driver for the RTX 3050 because it wasn't included with the Windows driver package. Also, make sure you check for BIOS updates. This system actually had one. There was a BIOS update during my setup. And lastly, just be sure to set the power plan to high performance in Windows. This ensures you're getting the most out of your hardware. Speaking of hardware, before we dive into the internals of this PC, let's hear from today's video sponsor.
Montech with another insane value product, the Hyperflow ARGB AIOs, available in black or white, 240 or 360 sizes, with full platform compatibility and friendly tools along the way that not only look gorgeous with pump lighting and matching blade illumination, but also performance that should satisfy with any hot silicon thanks to high-speed fans, high-density fins on the rad, a good pump, and daisy-chain fans for easy cable management, all backed by the 6-year warranty, so you don't have to worry. Check it out below.
Okay, so accessing the internals is actually pretty straightforward. A single screw secures the side panel, and once that's removed, the metal backplate easily pops off. And above this, you will notice a hard drive caddy for storage expansion, which appears to support both 3.5-inch and 2.5-inch hard drives. However, I couldn't find any mounting screws included in the box, so you'll need to source them separately. On the bright side, HP did include SATA power and data cables, which is a thoughtful touch. But that said, there are 2 SATA ports available, which raises an interesting question. Why provide 2 ports but no proper space to mount 2 hard drives securely? Now, while you could technically fit a 2.5-inch drive towards the back of this caddy, it's not entirely a secure solution. I also wished if HP had been more detailed about upgrade guidelines in their user manual. The only thing that I noticed is that breaking the security seal still offers some coverage under HP's limited warranty, but it's vague at best. There's an M.2 SSD pre-installed on this PC. It is 0.5 TB and it's pretty fast. You can easily upgrade that in the future, no problem. The RTX 3050 is easily accessible. This card features a simple design and it draws power directly from the PCI slot. This is the 6GB version with 2304 CUDA cores. It comes equipped with 3 DisplayPort outputs and 1 HDMI for connecting to your displays. If you're considering upgrading the GPU in the future, HP has included an 8-pin connector for more powerful cards. However, before making any upgrades, just make sure that the new card doesn't exceed 10 inches in length and 4.25 inches in width to fit comfortably within the case. The power supply is non-standard. This limits PSU upgrades as well, and it's only 350 watts, which also limits GPU upgrades. The CPU cooler is pretty basic. It's a small heatsink strapped to an 80mm fan. The thermal paste application looks pretty good, covering the majority of the IHS of the Core i5-14400F. This CPU is actually from the Alder Lake generation, so don't confuse yourself thinking you're getting a Raptor Lake processor. In fact, many lower-end 14,000 series aren't actually Raptor Lake, but just rebranded Alder Lake chips. So if you find a Victus 15 with a 13400, like this one for as low as $500, you're pretty much getting the same spec as the one that I have over here, minus the storage size. As for memory, I've got some good news and some bad news. Let's start with the bad news. This one particularly comes configured with a single channel memory module. It's a Samsung 16GB stick running at 3200 MHz. But the good news is that you can pick up the exact same module from eBay for less than $40 and can easily double up in memory capacity. Or you can get them from Crucial. They have a detail section with compatible memory kits specifically for the Victus 15L. I tried playing around with different memory modules in the studio, but it's very picky. If you choose the wrong kit, you're going to end up with something like this. Now, I found a Lexar 32GB, 3200 MHz DDR4 RAM kit that worked like a charm. And this sort of brings me to the next topic about this PC, its performance. Let's set some expectations here, okay? This isn't a chart-topping system or is a gaming PC that's designed to chase the highest frame rates. But how does the overall computing experience hold up? Surprisingly, it's very good. The first thing that stood out to me was the instant boot up times, thanks to the SSD, of course. For lighter tasks like browsing the web, streaming on Netflix, running productivity apps like Word or Excel, this thing, it performs flawlessly. The CPU is more than capable to handle those. But when you start to push the CPU where it's taxed at 100%, that's where it starts to sort of fall apart. In benchmarks like Cinebench R23 and R24, the results were okay, but compared to mainstream CPUs, or let alone the exact same CPU running at higher wattage, it's just not quite there yet. It's not designed to perform heavy-duty tasks. You can see that similarity in Blender. The performance is decent, nothing extraordinary. Interestingly, upgrading from the single-channel 16GB DDR4 kit to dual-channel 32GB kit didn't really show much of an improvement in most of our tasks. Except for video editing, I noticed that the upgrade made a noticeable difference in playback performance. Basically, jumping between cuts felt snappier, and you can actually see how this app loves memory. Though export times remain identical, which sort of makes sense since Resolve is more GPU bound than CPU bound. But can you actually game on this PC? Absolutely. While I didn't test every single title from our benchmarking suite, some of the most popular games performed quite well at 1080p. For instance, Cyberpunk showed a noticeable improvement in frame rates after upgrading the memory. God of War averaged just over 60 frames per second in the original preset at 1080p, though the memory upgrades didn't seem to impact this game. Similarly, Spider-Man Miles Morales ran between 60 to 70 frames per second, and for racing fans out there, Forza Horizon 5 consistently delivered over 60 frames per second. Just be mindful that the RTX 3050 that comes with this PC has 6 GB of VRAM instead of 8 GB, which could limit performance in some games depending on the resolution you choose. The GPU core clocks averaged around 1.7 GHz, which falls within NVIDIA's spec, and it ran pretty cool too while drawing about 66 watts from the PCI slot. The CPU clock speeds averaged around 3.2 GHz under heavy workloads, and it looks like HP is capping these chips at their base 65 watts of power, which explains its mediocre CPU performance, and the temps look reasonable. And at the end of the day, if you're looking to dip your toes into gaming without breaking the bank, this thing is a pretty solid start, especially if you can snag it for sale. HP also offers configurations with better GPUs like an RTX 4060 for under $800, which adds even more value to the lineup. They are not sponsoring this video. I'm just mentioning this based on the research that I've done. But now let's address the age-old debate, right? Building your own PC versus buying a pre-built. Building your own rig can be an incredibly rewarding experience if everything works as planned. I priced out a custom build with similar specs identical to the Victus, and it ended up being almost $200 more expensive when factoring in a licensed copy of Windows. That's a significant difference if you're tight on budget. A custom build also offers greater upgradability and the ability to select components that fit your style and preferences. Performance might also see minor gains depending on factors like power delivery for the GPU and the CPU. But not everyone has the time, knowledge, or interest to dive into compatibility research, compare endless hardware options, or even troubleshoot the assembly process if something were to go wrong. And I guess for those people, a pre-built system like this one is an excellent plug-and-play alternative, as long as you don't end up overpaying. What surprised me the most about this PC was its versatility. Its compact size is perfect for something like an HD PC, and it's adaptable to a lot of different environments without looking too aggressive. And it's also a great choice for kids who are getting into gaming, especially when money is tight these days. Now, obviously, I'm not a huge fan of the I/O selection. The back I/O, only USB 2.0 ports, it's not as advanced, or you're not getting the most if you are gonna plug in 1,000 different things to your PC. So there's that limitation right there. And the included keyboard and mousepad, they're decent. I mean, coming from mechanical keyboards, it is a bit of a step back, but they get the job done, guys. It's not, you know, it's a good starting point. I gamed on it and it was perfectly fine. But yeah, that's my experience with this Costco gaming PC. I think I really had a lot of fun with this thing. Let us know if you're interested in similar content. It was definitely something different from my cup of tea, but yeah. Let us know what you guys think. I'm Ibra with Canucks. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.